Now, a row between Police Minister Bheki Cele and the Western Cape provincial government is brewing over beaches along the Garden Route. While the beaches were closed during the recent holiday season, police believe there was still not enough compliance with lockdown regulations. Cele has said SNDF soldiers will be brought in to patrol the beaches to keep people away, but Western Cape Community Safety MEC Albert Fritz has accused the minister of embarking on an unnecessary, quote, power trip. The MEC joins us now live from Cape Town this morning via our video link. MEC, thanks very much for your time and welcome to the AM report. Perhaps let's start there. You say the minister is on a power trip across the Western Cape. Tell us why.
Yes, good morning. And I must just say we're not having a fight. I think it's part of our robust engagements, continuous engagements, because many times I think we must alert the minister to his priorities. And the one problem we have at the moment is that the minister's obsessed with beaches and with people on beaches. In the meantime, crime in our townships and crime in gang areas on the Cape Flats is really again getting out of hand. And I get WhatsApp messages early in the morning to alert me to please get the police to come and respond to shootings in poor areas. He's obsessed with beaches, with running on beaches and marching on beaches and parading on beaches. Let us get our priorities straight, and that's our point. We're not having a fight. We're just reminding him of our constitutional duties and obligations to monitor the whole efficiency of police operations. And they're not efficient at the moment. Last night I had a case in Tafelsig, a place in Mitchell's Plain, a rape case where the police went out, refused to assist the victim. Luckily, our provincial commissioner is very passionate about gender-based violence, and she immediately responded. That's the issues we're talking about. Yeah. So we want to bring the army in to go patrol the beaches up in the Eden area in the Garden Route, while gangs and gangster leaders are just taking over the Cape Flats. That's our question, and that's the passionate request that we're making to safeguard our people, specifically under lockdown, because gangsters don't adhere to lockdown regulations.
Right. That critique actually wouldn't be new to the minister's ears. In fact, I know for a fact that he's heard this before. His defense is that he's actually received complaints of non-compliance along the Western Cape's beaches. Are you suggesting he's making that up?
Man, by his own admission, and I say this with absolute respect, by the minister's own admission, in the Garden Route, the compliance to the regulations are completely far higher than almost everywhere else. We are not suggesting that we must not adhere to the rule of law. I just want to make that clear. The regulations are there. We may disagree with the regulations, but we need to adhere to it. But please, this obsession with wanting to go after swimmers, and I know people, they're not supposed to break the law. I think the police must unfortunately act. But please assist us. Just near there in George, in one of the areas in George, violence is getting out of hand in that area. Go and assist. Get the police to go and assist and stop and make our people feel safe. That's the point we're making.
Some people might suggest that it's very possible to do both. We can walk and chew at the same time. People shouldn't be breaking the regulations along the beaches, and there shouldn't be crime taking place inside Western Cape communities. How best do we do that, considering that the deployment of the SNDF has actually taken place in some crime hotspots in the Western Cape, but here we are still dealing with those same systemic issues?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's not in our experience the case. The police is not dealing with both. And I'm also happy, we must also say the positive of the South African Defence Force. They're assisting in some of our hotspot areas in Worcester, and I know in another area. And that's around medical assistance. That's around supporting our existing our nurses and our doctors and health workers who are really under absolute strain. And we really want to also pay tribute to them all the time, because they are under massive strain. That's where they are supporting us at the moment. Yes, of course, we would really welcome also assistance around the crime situation. We just need our police to respond. That's all. I think in many instances we have enough policemen to do work. They must just respond to when people call them. Last night in a place called Hillview near Lavender Hill, there were the number of shootings going off and the police being called and they're not responding. That's what we're talking, and that's what we're saying to the minister. Please assist poor communities also. It's right, try and police the kind of compliance with the regulations. But yeah, there's another community. Don't forget our communities. That's the point we're making.
It's interesting you say there are enough policemen. In fact, the police minister is quoted as saying part of the reason why they're bringing in the SANDF is because they've lost a few members due to the COVID-19 outbreak. Some have been infected and sadly others have died. But part of the pressing issues we are seeing now is the Western Cape particularly being amongst regions of great concern. Upwards of 41,000 active cases. That's second only to KZN. It certainly does give us the impression that if there was any kind of concerted focus from the police ministry, it definitely should land in places like the Western Cape.
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely concur with you and I completely agree with you. I think the point I'm making, you have a relatively empty beach with one swimmer and you have a whole police force on that beach. The other side of the coin, go into one of our areas where people are not many times adhering, so you will fight crime and the compliance of getting people to adhere to the regulations, where social distancing can be enforced in many of our townships. That's the point we are talking about. Where Sabines are just operating, selling liquor illegally, and we don't have enough, liquor, Western Cape Liquor Authority inspectors, because many of them were also struck by the virus, to really enforce the liquor regulations. That's what we're talking about. Assist us in those issues, because that relates to the gang violence, and those are gangsters selling the liquor. And then lastly, we have seen a relatively quiet in terms of our trauma units, so we're just asking for that.
It appears that you have a pet that wants to weigh in, certainly a charged discussion. Before I let you go, you say you are not fighting with the minister. I presume then that you have reached out with this critique. What's been his response?
Yeah, in fact, I'm in the process of doing something to him. And I want to emphasize that we really have a very good relationship. We don't, there's no fighting. We just always remind the minister, this is the province, we know it quite well. Please, this is the kind of priorities. Yeah, I also want to emphasize that operationally, and this is the issue, the minister must stop getting involved in the operational issues, because operationally, we're having an amazing provincial commissioner, in my opinion. She's very, very good. She's doing very well. And she's just a police person. She's an official police person that don't try and play any kind of politics. And I really want to say, I mean, I reported a number of issues yesterday to her, and she immediately responded to all of those.
Yeah, if she's doing so well, some people might ask, then why are we still dealing with some of these issues?
Yes, it's as you know, and I mean, the gangster issue on the Cape Flats is so systemic. It's so, really ingrained, and part of our program in the Western Cape with our violence prevention program and our broader safety plan is the one leg, and we are emphasizing the one leg of violence prevention, young people, giving them opportunities. Young people this week, in fact, I think it's 150 young women from those vulnerable areas are starting at the Chrysalis Youth Academy. That's the issues that we are all the time saying. It's not just hardcore policing, it's also to break that cycle of gangsterism, of prison, and of the strength of prison gangs in our communities. You have generational kind of issues of the father being in prison, then the child being in prison, then the grandchild being in prison. And we need to break that, and we can break it. We have seen some success stories.
Right. While the charged back and forths make for great headlines, I think we can both agree that the lack of coordination, if there is, between provincial and national government is to no one's benefit. So one can only hope that we'll be able to iron out some of these differences. Thanks very much for your time. Certainly appreciate it here on the AM Report. That there is the MEC of Community Safety in the Western Cape, Albert Fritz.